Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 13 of Be With Me. We're in 2 Corinthians. We have a really famous verse today, which, of course, I am unworthy to bring you. Well, listen in here. Paul has been contrasting the vessel and the message. So, the worthiness of the messenger to carry this great message. He started it 2 chapters ago when he asked the question, who is sufficient? Are our pastors sufficient? Are our congregants sufficient? Who is sufficient to carry the carnally aroma of Christ, to carry his name into the pointy end of people's contact with God? And who am I, he's asking, essentially, to be a minister of such a great message? Who am I to be a letter delivered to you guys, if you will, a letter from God delivered to you guys, the Corinthians? And he's wrestling with the sufficiency of himself. And then the Lord kind of answers him, and he says, no, you're commissioned, you're competent, you're capable of bringing this new covenant to the people. So there's this humility and awe that Paul is drawing in his own soul. And in the structure of this podcast, so just fly up to 10,000 feet with me, it's kind of like the structure of a quiet time. We're Christians, and we've been doing this for centuries. We put aside the world for a few moments, and we expose ourselves to the Word, which is to say, expose ourselves to God's heart, God's history, God's character. And here today we have this great concluding verse, except of course it's not a conclusion. It's a part of the big fabric of what he's been telling us. And I am humbled this morning even to expose myself to it, and then I'm humbled to bring it to you. It's a very famous verse. It's known by everybody. I feel like I can't do it justice. Other famous people have wrestled with it. Here it is, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. Let me read it again, verse 7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. So he's asking this question again of himself. Who is sufficient? Who of us is sufficient to receive the attention and the mercy of God, much less the favor of God, and the beyond all this beyond stuff that he gives us. He gives us grace. He gives us beyond mercy, stuff like that. And you know, and I know, that I've done things and thought things deserving of judgment. And it's as if the Lord is saying, no, I'm not going to give this podcaster and his people what they deserve. In fact, he knows that we're made of dust. In fact, he was there at the beginning. He knows that we're made of dirt. He knows that we're made of clay. And it's as if the Lord is saying, hey, these dirty ones, these dusty ones, these clay ones, these are my people. I choose to fellowship with dirt. And you get the sense of Paul wrestling with his insufficiency and his carrying the aroma of Christ into people's pointy end of spiritual contact with God. And somehow it is the jar of clay, not a jar of gold, that displays the treasure best. So this is like eternity in a verse. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. So it's like a spotlight verse that takes the spotlight off of us, off of the clay, off of the dirt, off of the jar of clay, and points it towards a treasure. He's answering a big question in the Corinthians' mind is, hey, we kind of want a super apostle. We want a shiny, bright apostle. And Paul is humbling himself and pointing to the Lord's message. So that's how it's an eternity in a verse. So the treasure there, you have to, when you face this verse, you have to first say, there's a treasure there for me. And that is mind-blowing. It's soul-blowing. And then after he gives me a treasure, then he asks me to carry that name everywhere, into my work, into my family, into my church. So the treasure is for me, and then he said, and then it's like, no, not just that. We're emissaries of that treasure to others. So the first question is, well, who doesn't want a treasure? And I think the answer is most people do. I know that some people will just reject God all out, but I think those people are a minority. I think most people want a treasure, don't they? For others, the difficulty may be the second part of the verse. That is, you're a jar of clay, or I'm a jar of clay. That's us. And who isn't a jar? That's the answer to that is easy. It's nobody. We're all a jar of clay. But the question is, who doesn't know that they're a jar? Well, that's pride, and that may be the most difficult step for many of my listeners. So today, I offer you two things. Besides just this awe of the verse, the awe that we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not us. Here are the two things I offer you today. I offer you a jar of clay. Well, that would be me for starters, but also I'm saying that, hey, you're a jar of clay, and that is humbling, and that is the bowing of the knee that is very difficult. It was for me, and it might be for you too. The second thing I offer you this treasure that the Lord says, no, you guys are my commissioned ones and competent and capable ones of bringing the covenant to yourself and to your church and to people that are one step outside of the church. So today, let's enjoy our clayness for one thing, that we don't have to be golds. We don't have to be gold jars. We are clay, and so let's just be who we are. And then the second thing is to know that we bring treasure, that God is the treasure, and let's put the spotlight on the surpassing power that belongs to God and not to us. Thanks for listening.